Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again as we dive into another unbelievable story from the world of rare coins. And today we are talking about a coin that has shocked collectors, stunned experts, and sparked endless debate among enthusiasts. So sit tight because this deep dive into the mysterious and incredibly valuable 1982 1-cent coin, rumored to be worth as much as $80 million due to its astonishing errors and bizarre production anomalies, is going to open your eyes to details most people never notice and possibilities that make even seasoned collectors rethink what they know about the US mint, rarity, demand, and the strange combination of luck and circumstance that can transform an ordinary penny into an absolute treasure. And as we go through the story of this coin, we'll explore not only the errors that might justify such an outrageous price but also the surrounding theories, discoveries, and real examples of how tiny mistakes on a common coin can elevate it into the realm of legendary collectibles, starting with the fact that 1982 was one of the strangest transition years in US coinage history because the mint switched the composition of the penny from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc, creating multiple variations including large date, small date, copper, zinc, and all kinds of mixed strike possibilities, making it a uniquely chaotic year and a perfect breeding ground for rare production errors that can go unnoticed for decades. So when collectors hear about a supposed $80 million 1982 cent, the reaction isn't as crazy as it sounds because the year already produced one of the most famous rarities ever discovered, the 1982 D small date copper coin, of which only one verified example is known. But the coin in this story takes the idea of an extreme mint error to an entirely different level, a level where the coin's unusual characteristics, technical anomalies, metal inconsistencies and physical distortions create a perfect storm of collectability that pushes its imagined value into the territory of elite art pieces and historical artifacts rather than pocket change. And that's exactly why this particular 1982 cent captures so much attention, because it's not just about a single error but rather a possible combination of multiple simultaneous mistakes which experts theorize could include a mismixed planchette producing a hybrid metal composition, a double strike with rotational offset, improperly annealed surfaces causing strange discoloration, and even the possibility of a mule strike where the obverse from one die was paired with the reverse intended for another, an ultra-rare and nearly impossible scenario that makes collectors go wild. And while no typical 1982 penny comes anywhere close to such value, the idea of a one-of-a-kind hybrid error emerging from a year already filled with variations makes the story feel almost reasonable to anyone who studies coin minting deeply, especially considering that the mint in 1982 was rushing production to adapt to new metal requirements, leading to increased mechanical strain, planchette handling issues and die wear that easily introduced subtle mistakes into millions of coins. And when you imagine someone discovering a coin that combines several independent errors into a single piece, you start to realize why collectors speculate about astronomically high values, because rarity is the number one driver of extreme prices, and the rarer and more complicated the error, the more intense the competition becomes among high-end buyers. So when you examine the imagined features of this $80 million penny, you begin with the question of metal composition, because the 1982 copper versus zinc debate is already a major topic in the coin world. And if a coin was struck on a transitional planchette with an unusual weight, inconsistent density, or a mismatched alloy batch, it would immediately stand out to experts, especially if the metal reacted oddly to the strike and produced surfaces that appear layered, cracked, or uneven. And collectors have seen cases where planchets mixed with trace elements like tin or magnesium produced unexpected toning effects that later became huge selling points at auction. So imagine a coin that shows copper color dominance but weighs slightly off from the standard copper weight, maybe 3.08 grams instead of the typical 3.11 grams. A tiny difference that might come from experimental material inconsistencies during the transition period. And then layer on top of that a striking anomaly where the coin appears double-struck but with the second strike at a slight clockwise rotation, causing Lincoln's profile to shadow itself faintly behind the primary impression. A surreal effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable as a mint blunder rather than post-mint damage. And then add the possibility of a misaligned die clash where the reverse and Obverse dies made contact without a planchette in between, leaving faint outlines of the memorial columns ghosting behind Lincoln's neck, a signature of high-level mint errors that collectors dream about finding. And when you combine these kinds of anomalies, you get a coin that looks more like an unintended masterpiece forged through mechanical chaos. And that's exactly what imaginations run wild with when discussing an $80 million 1982 penny. But the fascination doesn't stop there. Because the physical characteristics alone wouldn't justify such extreme valuation unless the coin also demonstrated rarity so absolute that no other known example even comes close, meaning the combination of errors would have to exist only on this single coin, making it the equivalent of a unique artwork produced accidentally and irreproducibly by mint machinery. And the story becomes even more unbelievable when enthusiasts speculate about mule pairing possibilities, meaning a 1982 obverse could theoretically be struck with a reverse intended for a completely different coin type, something like a dime reverse or even a foreign planchette reverse intended for US ally currency production overseas, because the mint at various times has used its equipment to strike coins for other countries too, and accidental dime mixing is not totally impossible, as history shows with famous mule coins like the Sacagawea dollar paired with a state quarter obverse, selling for huge amounts. So, imagining a 1982 cent produced in a similarly unlikely mule strike fuels the myth further, as does the idea of unusual die deterioration creating raised die cracks that form patterns like lightning streaks across the fields, something collectors also pay premiums for. And when enthusiasts pile all this together, they imagine a coin so visually shocking and so technically extraordinary that collectors with deep pockets would fight aggressively to own it, pushing its price higher and higher. Especially since rare coin bidding wars often come down to ego, prestige, and the desire to own something nobody else on earth has. And that psychology is a huge part of what drives extreme valuations. So even though no confirmed sale of a real 1982 penny has ever reached such impossible heights, the reason the legend persists is because the year is chaotic enough, the minting errors are varied enough, and the possibilities are wild enough to make collectors genuinely believe that if such a coin existed, if a transitional mule double-strike hybrid planchette piece with die clash, misalignment, and unique composition anomalies were ever discovered, it would cause an auction frenzy like nothing the coin world has seen before. And so this story becomes a blend of imagination, real minting science, documented errors from other years, and the excitement of thinking about the ultimate discovery hidden in someone's pocket change. And that is why the tale of the $80 million 1982 cent continues to captivate viewers and collectors alike, reminding everyone to keep their eyes open, check their coins carefully, test the weights, study the details, and never underestimate the possibility that a tiny piece of metal you've ignored for years might actually be the key to financial transformation. And the beauty of this hobby is that discoveries still happen, rarities still surface, and the next legendary era coin could literally be sitting in a jar in someone's kitchen right now, waiting for the right person to notice it and recognize what makes it special. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most surprising and fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and casual viewers all around the world. And today we are talking about the unbelievable claim that a 1989 1-cent coin, a simple Lincoln penny that most people would overlook without a second thought, has reached a mind-blowing value of $81 million because of a combination of extraordinary errors, unexpected mint mistakes, and rare circumstances that make it one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatics. And as we step into this journey together, you'll discover why small details, hidden imperfections, and unusual minting events can transform an ordinary coin into a legendary piece worth big money. So stay connected as we unfold the story behind how a single 1989 penny could allegedly rise to such unimaginable value by exploring the layers of mystery, speculation, and numismatic curiosity that surround this coin. Because while the idea of any penny being worth millions feels unbelievable at first, the deeper you look, the more you realize how the interaction between mint processes, human oversight, and the natural wear of time can play a huge role in making certain coins incredibly valuable to collectors who chase rarity, perfection, or dramatic errors. and the 1989 Lincoln cent is one that has generated rumors and excitement because of several known error types from that era which fuel the belief that under extremely rare circumstances a single coin could exhibit a perfect storm of mistakes, beginning with the possibility of a double die obverse where the lettering such as Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date 1989 appears doubled, a mistake that occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly during creation, and while official records of a major double die for the 1989 penny are scarce, collectors know that minor doubled dies exist and that in theory an extreme version could have been produced before being caught by the mint, making that one piece an incredible rarity. And then you add the possibility of a transitional planchette error where instead of being struck on the standard zinc-coated planchette used in 1989 a leftover copper planchette from previous years slips into the minting process, resulting in a heavier coin with a different metallic composition that experts can verify through weight tests and metal analysis. And historically transitional errors have sold for huge amounts because they represent a clear and undeniable mint mistake that should never have happened. And if a 1989 penny existed that combined a transitional planchette with a major doubled die, the value could skyrocket into territory that sparks the kind of headlines people love to repeat. But we can go further because the speculation doesn't stop at doubled dies or wrong planches, as there are also reports from collectors that some 1989 pennies appear misaligned, off-center, or weakly struck, errors that happen when the dies or planches are not positioned properly. And if an extreme off-center strike combined with a fully visible date were to appear on a penny from this year, it could command significant value because collectors love dramatic visual errors that instantly stand out. And then you have the possibility of die cracks, die cuts, or even clipped planches, where part of the coin appears cut or missing due to a problem with the metal strip during production, all of which add layers of rarity depending on how bold the error is. And while not every penny with such mistakes becomes a treasure, the fascination grows when people imagine one single coin exhibiting multiple errors at once, a so-called multiple error composite that is so rare it becomes priceless to the right buyer. And that is exactly the kind of speculation that fuels the claim of a coin being worth tens of millions, because in the world of numismatics the most extreme error combinations are often one-of-a-kind discoveries that collectors dream of finding, knowing that unique pieces can sell for extraordinary amounts in private auctions, especially when wealthy collectors compete to own something no one else can have. And that leads to another possibility that keeps the story alive, which is the idea of a prototype strike or test error, coins produced by the mint while adjusting machinery or preparing dies for mass production. And these test strikes are normally destroyed, but history tells us that stray pieces sometimes escape the mint due to human oversight, older procedures, or improper documentation. And if a 1989 penny with traces of a prototype design, altered metal content, or unusual strike pressure somehow survived, its value would immediately leap into the realm of legend, because prototype errors are among the rarest categories of numismatic history, and even the slightest hint of one makes a coin unimaginably desirable to advanced collectors. And while none of these possibilities guarantee a value of $81 million, the combination of mystery, speculation, rarity, and the excitement of imagining a once-in-a-lifetime discovery is what drives the fascination behind coins like the 1989 penny, especially in the online world where stories spread quickly and viewers love the thrill of imagining that the spare change sitting in a drawer might actually hold a hidden fortune. And the truth is that even though no officially verified sale of a 1989 penny for this amount exists, collectors understand that extreme error coins, especially those that could theoretically involve multiple major mistakes, have unpredictable and sometimes shocking values, particularly in private deals where wealthy buyers sometimes pay far beyond public auction estimates just to secure an ultra-rare specimen. And this combination of unknowns creates a narrative that keeps viewers engaged, because while the average 1989 penny is worth only face value, the belief that one extraordinary example could exist encourages people to check their coins carefully, to learn about mint errors and to understand how easily overlooked details might reveal something incredibly rare. And part of the excitement also comes from the technological shift that occurred in the mid to late 1980s when the mint continued improving its zinc-based planches and striking techniques, a period when subtle Inconsistencies in metal bonding, strike pressure, and die longevity could still produce unique anomalies, and the idea that a perfect storm of those anomalies might have produced a legendary 1989 penny fuels collectors' imaginations, leading them to analyze weight differences as small as fractions of a gram or to inspect every ridge, letter, and surface imperfection under magnification, hoping to catch the signs of an undiscovered treasure. And this pursuit of the unknown is what keeps the hobby alive and what draws viewers to videos like this one, because it connects the everyday object of a penny to the thrilling concept of hidden value, mysterious minting events, and the excitement of discovery. And whether the idea of an $81 million example is symbolic or literal, the underlying message is clear: that rare errors do exist, some are worth massive sums, and the 1989 penny remains one of those intriguing years where the potential for extraordinary mistakes continues to generate conversation, speculation, and deep curiosity. And as you hold a 1989 penny in your hand, you might wonder if its surfaces hide a double die overlooked by graders, a microcud forming near the rim, a planchet that somehow doesn't match its intended composition, or a strike pattern that reveals something unusual about the exact moment it was minted. Because every coin carries a story, and sometimes that story is so rare and unexpected that it transforms a tiny 1-cent piece into a multimillion-dollar treasure in the eyes of those who understand the world of numismatic rarity. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, keeps enthusiasts watching, and keeps the legend of the $81 million 1989 penny alive as one of the most captivating and imaginative topics in modern coin collecting. Last 2004 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the entire hobby, a story that keeps coin collectors on the edge of their seats and sparks endless fascination, because the idea that a humble 2004 D1 cent coin could reach a mind-blowing value of $82 million due to a combination of bizarre errors, strange minting anomalies, and extraordinary possibilities might sound impossible at first. Yet the world of numismatics has repeatedly shown that the rarest and most dramatic mint mistakes can create values far beyond ordinary logic. So today we are taking you into that world and opening the door to every detail that makes this coin so intriguing. Starting from how a standard Denver minted penny from 2004, a year known for massive production runs and generally flawless manufacturing, could take an unexpected turn and end up becoming one of the most talked about coins in collector circles because of a chain of unlikely events that all came together in a way that practically rewrites what we think is possible for modern small denomination coins. And as we dig deeper, you'll see why this coin grabs the attention of serious collectors, investors, and enthusiasts who love untangling the mystery of mint errors that go far beyond the usual off-center strike or die crack. Since the 2004 D-cent involved in this $82 million legend is believed to feature a combination of mistakes so rare and so stacked on top of one another that the odds of them happening together are nearly impossible. Starting with the widely discussed double planchet strike that supposedly resulted when a misfed cent blank overlapped with another already struck penny at the exact moment the coin was being processed, creating a fusion of design impressions that left distorted lettering, an oddly layered rim, and a strange contour on Lincoln's profile that almost creates the effect of a shadowy secondary head. And while this type of collision error is already rare on its own, what makes the situation even more extreme is the theory that the planchet used wasn't the usual copper-plated zinc blank assigned to 2004, but instead a leftover transitional planchet from the early 1980s accidentally mixed into the modern production stream, a possibility that collectors obsess over since transitional planchets are famous for producing some of the highest valued modern cents ever discovered. And although the Denver Mint is known for tight quality control, the idea of a stray copper planchet slipping through decades later adds a whole new layer of intrigue, because the weight difference, metallic properties, and strike behavior would all create an unusual outcome that seasoned numismatists can spot immediately, especially when combined with signs of multiple strikes along the rim, distorted lettering around Liberty, inconsistent texture across the surface, and a partial collar strike suggesting the coin wasn't properly seated in the machinery during its formation. And when you add the fact that the 2004 D-cents already had some scattered reports of minor die deterioration, filled dies, and small form anomalies that year, The possibility of one coin becoming an extreme outlier becomes even more believable, particularly when collectors start analyzing micro-details like dye polish lines that appear randomly across Lincoln's coat, small raised ridges forming near the date, unusual patterns around the memorial building, and a faint doubling of the mint mark that could be the result of a worn or improperly placed punch, all of which create an almost perfect storm of numismatic chaos. And because collectors know that the rarest coins often emerge from these unpredictable combinations rather than a single flaw, the legend of the $82 million 2004 D penny keeps gaining momentum as enthusiasts imagine a coin that didn't just receive one bizarre error but several stacked errors that compound in rarity and uniqueness. And once you factor in how the market reacts to one-of-a-kind pieces, scarcity takes over and drives up the hypothetical value much faster than the actual metal content or original face value ever could, especially in cases where no other example with the same set of anomalies exists. Which is why stories like this become so captivating, since people love the idea that an everyday coin that most people overlook could secretly hold extraordinary value, and that fascination pushes collectors to search through their change with renewed enthusiasm, imagining that one overlooked cent might carry overlapping strikes, rotated dies, wrong planchet characteristics, or pressure anomalies that create distortions only visible under magnification. And all of this builds into the narrative that a single 2004 D penny could become a standout superstar not because the year itself was inherently special but because the minting process that day may have slipped just enough to allow a perfect combination of conditions that could never happen again, raising questions about how such errors escape the mint, whether the coin might have been pulled from circulation before too much were accumulated, what kind of preservation state it might be in now, whether it remained pristine due to being discovered early or stored away by someone who recognized its odd features, and whether a private collector or institution might eventually reveal it publicly, triggering a bidding war that pushes its price into astronomical territory. Because when a coin has both mystery and extreme rarity, collectors compete fiercely, and with enough competition even conservative estimates get blown out of the water, which is why people imagine the value rising into tens of millions of dollars, especially when considering the market behavior around coins like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 doubled die, or other iconic era coins that prove the hobby is full of surprises. And just like those famous pieces, the hypothetical 2004 $82 million penny earns its place in collector conversations because it fuels the imagination and challenges assumptions about what modern coins are capable of, showing that error combinations, transitional possibilities, mechanical mishaps, planchet anomalies, and die defects can produce something truly extraordinary. And even if the majority of 2004 D cents are ordinary, this story encourages people to look closer, check the edges, inspect the surfaces, analyze the shine, test the weight, and compare known details against unexpected anomalies, turning a simple penny hunt into a full adventure. And the beauty of this concept is that the coin doesn't rely on myth alone but on realistic error possibilities that, while extremely rare, are still part of minting history, such as lamination flaws where the plating peels, broad strike patterns where the coin spreads wider due to missing collars, off-metal composition accidents where blanks from previous years remain in inventory, and die alignment issues that cause rotated strikes mistakenly released into circulation, meaning the $82 million valuation is driven not only by fantasy but also by the idea that if such a coin exists, its uniqueness would justify an extremely high collector premium. And the more details you imagine about it, the more the story grows, including the idea that the reverse might show uneven pressure on the memorial steps, die fatigue around the columns, faint doubling on the motto, microscopic metal flow lines suggesting an unusual strike speed, or pressure irregularities creating an almost rippled surface texture. And with each added possibility, the coin gains more personality, more uniqueness, and more potential value in the eyes of collectors who love chasing impossible finds. And that is why discussions about this 2004 D cent continue to circulate, inspiring people to dig through rolls, inspect old jars, and search through inherited collections, reminding everyone that even in a world dominated by technology and mass production, accidents can still create treasures hidden in plain sight. So whether the story centers on a transitional planchette, a double-strike fusion, a misaligned collar, a rotated die, a shattered die imprint, or a plating defect that produced unpredictable visual features, the legend holds strong because the idea is fueled by genuine numismatic curiosity, and that curiosity is what keeps this hobby alive, reminding us that coins aren't just metal discs but miniature historical artifacts capable of carrying stories far larger than their size. And that's exactly why the tale of a 2004 D penny reaching $82 million captures so much attention, because it merges the thrill of discovery, the intrigue of mechanical imperfection, the wonder of rarity, and the excitement of the unknown, all packed into a single cent that transforms from everyday pocket change into a symbol of what makes collecting so endlessly fascinating.